Good evening. Today I have with me Mr. Jason, who is the Chief Information Security Officer for mPokket. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Prashant.
So, just heading on to the question number one. So, given your work with across regulated sectors,
Right.
how should security leaders balance RBI compliance with innovation and speed?
Right. It's a very interesting question. Now, going back to a first principles approach of managing cybersecurity, one of the things we are often told as aspiring CISOs, and now what we are getting into is actually making the security path the easiest path.
Correct.
Okay. Now, that is where regulation comes in as a key enabler for all these things. So, where we see it is compliance is an enabler, and especially for sectors which are highly regulated, there is a higher degree of trust, and hence the high regulation.
Correct.
So, in the game of reaching higher levels of trust, the having guardrails along which build better products, better services, etc., is very important, and that is where the security posture comes in, and the regulations comes in, and we have certain path guardrail lit pathways where you can deploy at scale, deploy with innovation, and deploy with speed.
Correct.
So that is essential. And if you look at the highly regulated sectors in India, fintech, healthcare, etc., they are at the forefront of innovation and speed across the world, despite being one of the highest regulated sectors in the world. So compliance, in short, compliance is an enabler for innovation and speed.
Correct. So very rightly mentioned. But then there is one question which I want to lead from here.
Right.
So with the new policies like DPDPA,
Right.
and so there would be a lot of changes that come into, especially to organizations like fintech.
Right.
So how do you foresee, and what will be the like of changes that you expect with this kind of policies in place?
Right. Now, DPDPA and respective other privacy-centric laws around the world bring with it a higher focus on user-centric privacy and trust mechanisms. Now, what this translates to is the onus is on all these sectors who are, I mean, in case of India, it's every sector, that you have to innovate at scale. You have to address the core issue of trust. Correct, essentially. So that's what privacy essentially is all about. So it involves smartly designing, let's say, trust mechanisms, or let's say privacy mechanisms which speak about data minimization, and purpose limitation and all of those things, so on and so forth. Now, architecting these solutions, and of course, dynamic consent management.
Correct.
So these solutions, once it comes into the picture, drives a degree of trust, and that also translates to the supply chain as well. We keep hearing about supply chain risks, whether it's data or cyber security. Now, it will come, as I see it, it will come to a situation wherein vendors also who innovate to a higher degree of trust in terms of the data privacy ecosystem will become, will come forward in the business forefront. So that DPDPA is again a trust-based enabler in that regard. If you look at GDPR in the European market context, also it has driven better solutions over time.
Correct.
Right.
So for this doesn't definitely affects a lot of fintech organizations.
Right.
So how do you foresee the change? Like what approach change? Like are there any critical aspects that you would like to highlight here?
Steve, again, core principles: privacy, how consent is managed, how trust is managed, how data is managed. Now, these are all first principles, whether you talk about data security or privacy. The role of the data protection officer in India, that's strategically, it gains more importance in these scenarios. So, architecting the people process technology stack around this and ensuring that it follows smoothly with minimum disruption across the organization is key to addressing the regulatory aspects.
Very well said. So what does real world threat modeling look like going forward?
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. See, first off, threat modeling is a very important tool in any product security pipeline. The reason being is, if you look at the traditional SAST, DAST aspects and all. Essentially, okay, now we have copilots and all of those kind of tools, which are ID-based plugins, which help the developer build better code, etc. But then once it passes that detection phase and it's committed, built, etc., it goes into the next development cycle, wherein there is certain bandwidth taken from development for all these things. Threat modeling catches all these things at an early stage. Now, going forward, threat modeling also looks at certain things that the SAST and DAST aspects do not look at. For example, business logic errors, and that too with supply chain risks. Now, where the evolution is happening right now with threat modeling is, you talk about traditional stride or thread or octave models and all, that's with the product itself.
Correct.
This has over time expanded to the supply chain aspects now, and also API security is now one of the biggest concerns.
Definitely.
Now, modeling threats around all these things, that is part one. Part two is contextualizing real world threats using two key factors: threat intelligence and adversary simulations or team simulations.
Right.
Built into this makes for a good threat modeling program.
Right. So just adding a bit to it, and taking from what you said,
right.
When it comes to digital first companies,
Yes,
and it's their bread and butter.
Absolutely.
So what would be your suggestion or advice to the other aspirants or other peers to be wary of the kind of challenges that they might face in setting up or enabling the system that you just talked about?
See, one of course is when do you do it? How do you do it?
Correct.
Now, the average product or services company at scale will be, deploying at scale. So there will be continuous pipeline, etc. Now, at what point do you come in? That is going to be one key factor. How much, what is your core focus? Now, you cannot do it for every micro deployment, or you can do it. It depends on how much bandwidth, how many, number of hands on the job. Now, that part is thankfully solved to a great extent by AI. There are multitude of tools in the environment right now, which takes your data flow diagrams or your SLDs and LLDs and bakes them together and gives you a threat modeling output. Moving towards an AI first threat modeling aspect actually solves a lot of these problems.
Fantastic.
Right.
So, as you mentioned AI,
Right.
you are part of a lot of several AI and IT strategy committees.
Yes.
So, how are security strategies evolving to address the ethical and operational risk of AI integration in critical infrastructure?
Okay. That's again, that's a very interesting, slightly futuristic question also. Now, when I'm talking of AI, I'm talking things around data, essentially. When I'm talking things around data, we talk about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, with AI comes explainability. Okay, so that is one of those critical factors that come into the picture. Now, when we are moving towards that shift towards AI, whether it's critical infrastructure or not, there are certain considerations. So one should actually move along AI-enabled or AI-based risk modeling. This one more the check for more model robustness, all of those things, and let's say explainability, transparency of the algorithms and supporting infrastructure, and also about the data it is being trained on, etc., so on and so forth. Now, that is with regard to the AI model. And with respect to ethical considerations, definitely there has to be, the privacy framework has to definitely consider AI into this. And most, let's say, large service providers do have their own AI specific privacy product, which takes care of a lot of these things. Now, certain things like there is a lot of debate around, especially biometrics and other things on AI, etc., and so on and so forth. Now, we are living at a stage wherein there is a convenience versus security debate, or convenience versus AI ethics debate at the end of the day. So it boils down to AI systems being robust, being fair, being transparent, and having at least some human in the loop element, we call it HITL, to address these considerations for a start.
Correct. One last question.
Right.
What would be your one advice to your CISO peers
right.
who are considering integrating AI into their existing framework?
I think most of them should already be on that journey as we
But
speak.
a lot of them are still considering and evaluating a lot of options, as you must be very well aware more than me.
So, see, first principle, once again, you should be aware of what the AI system does, what it touches, how it touches, how it processes, where it processes. Once you have figured that out, then you build relevant guardrails in a manner which does not compromise the adoption beyond a certain point. So having a good, let's say vendor risk assessment to start with of all these things, being absolutely sure where this is integrated, whether it's internal or towards the product, and ensuring that the model stays that way. Perfect. That is also very important.
Yeah. Very nicely put, sir. Very nicely put. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you here.
Likewise. Thank you.